So beliefs is really a big part of this. Remember, it's not real good with facts. The week of July 29th to August 5th. Before we start talking about the whole chart, I want to touch on the midpoints. There's going to be midpoints that I'm going to be talking about in this chart because lately they're being aspected. And so to understand what a midpoint is, it's planet A, planet B, and what's the halfway point between them. You see? The midpoint. That's all it is. There's an interaction going on. Think about it. You meet some people. Maybe there are people you're not really friendly with. So maybe your interaction isn't necessarily, hey, let's go out and have coffee. Sometimes your interaction can be you're driving by in your car and you're flipping somebody the bird out the window, right? So we're going to touch on a couple of these that are going to be relative to this week's reading. Now, we'll start off in Taurus energy. And in Taurus energy, we have a midpoint, and it is called the Jupiter-Saturn midpoint. When we mix that energy together, this is, Jupiter expands upon something, and Saturn is I'm the CEO, I'm the boss. These are the rules. These are the regulations, the restrictions. Some call it red tape. Some call it, whatever. But it's within our values. So we think money, but we also think, somebody who might be in control of setting interest rates, someone who's in charge, someone who's the big boss. Jupiter is there. So there can be again, boss energy with Jupiter, but there's this expansiveness to it, right? So sometimes it could mean we're reflecting or I don't want to use the word redoing, but there's rules that may have kind of sat dormant. They were rules. They sat dormant. And then all of a sudden they kind of get enacted, right? Jupiter conjunct Saturn. There might be an increase possibly of rules. And you see it there, 122 in Taurus. So our values, but it's also the planet because it's earth energy. It's Taurus. So we think farmers, we think food, and we think, what are our values, right? And because we got Hygeia tells us a report card on our values. That could be banking, the financial, right? The finances, my love, my self-worth, reevaluating my worthiness. That could be part of this too. Could be initiating, beginning something. We also think taking action. We also think maybe even things with weapons, right? Might even have something to do with whether it's rules and regulations with weapons. It could have something to do with these new rules for soldiers or people who can carry weapons, because it's got this Martian type of vibration to it. The Jupiter-Saturn midpoint combines a sense, I'm by the way reading this right from the software, combines a sense of expansion and optimism with your discipline and responsibility. So expansion and optimism, Jupiter. Jupiter is also beliefs, by the way, with your discipline and responsibility. All Saturn keywords: duty, work, career, responsibility, rules, the steps I got to take to get there. When this midpoint is activated, it balances growth with practicality, making it particularly effective with business and career planning, where sustainable development is essential. This can be crucial when embarking on a long-term project. Saturn rules time, especially longevity. That's Saturn. Can be crucial when embarking on a long-term project or when making a decision that requires a careful blend of ambition and realism. So we got to stay grounded in reality, right? For example, if you are planning a business expansion or setting long-term personal goals, this midpoint helps ensure that your aspirations are grounded in practical considerations, promoting success through a disciplined and balanced approach. You follow? So we're not going extreme. We're being smart. It's grounded in something that's been associated with things that have stood the test of time. That's Saturn's energy. Something that's old, something that's wise, right? And so we often think of tradition, but we also think of the rules that have been around, okay? So that's just the Saturn-Jupiter midpoint. July 29th to August 5th. There we go. This is an active week. This week and the following week, all right? We do have a new moon this week. So there's a separate video for that, and I will put the thumbnail or the picture or the link down below, both, so that you can go watch it, so you can get more details and information, especially if you've got something near the degrees of the new moon. We'll discuss that a little bit down the road here in the video. For right now, we've got some arrows. These arrows are going to represent when a planet's moving into a new sign. Apparently my mind's getting a little more organized. So Black Moon Lilith will be moving into a new sign this week, as will Venus moving into a new sign this week. I have Mercury over here, and I don't have the retrograde R next to Mercury. But if you look on the chart, Mercury's in Virgo already this week. And Mercury does begin a retrograde, but because she's going super slow, that retrograde doesn't occur necessarily this week. It's really, that retrograde doesn't begin until the end of the week. So we'll get to it. I'll give you the degrees, and I'll give you the date on that one too. We got Mars here on the screen as well, Mars. And that's Mercury for anybody who doesn't know. And this one with the arrow, circle and the arrow, Martian energy. We got Mars over here, Mars in Gemini. Now, Mars in Gemini is triggered in a lot of ways right at the beginning of the week. I have all the aspects on this chart that Mars makes. It's making a lot of aspects, which means there's a lot of action being taken this week, because this Mars in Gemini, 6 degrees Gemini, getting very close to Aldebaran, which was why I have this red line drawn in. That red line is showing you that we've got a big conjunction here, okay? Beginning of this week, the moon just happens to be here, right? Conjunct Sedna. And then there's going to be this Jupiter-Uranus midpoint. I got a midpoint arrow here. So I'm going to have to give you a little bit of info on that, because that's at 5 degrees, right? Which means Mars was like touching it 2 days before. So the previous week's video, I think I already talked about it. Well, we know Jupiter expands upon something based upon what we just talked about: an expansiveness, optimism, confidence, and belief. Religion, Supreme Court. We think of justices, the judicial system when you see Jupiter in a chart. When you see Uranus in a chart, you think someone who's in charge, someone who wants to be in charge, someone who thinks they're the boss, someone who really is the boss. These are people who won't budge. It's very fixed energy normally. It becomes a little bit more mutable, more flexible in Gemini energy. Also, because Gemini being air will send a sweet trine to Aquarius energy, right? Ideas and networking and talking and communication and options and choices. Love. I want my options and my choices. So I'm really gathering information when I'm in my Gemini mode, right? And there's a lot of action happening with being out there, talking, gathering information, reading, having conversations, definitely networking, a lot of online curiosity, people learning about the past, people just hungry for knowledge and information whenever Gemini energy in general gets activated. But when Mars is there, we take action with it. We then talk about what we've learned. We want to share about what we've learned. It might even pertain to our body and our identity and our health. Anybody look up interesting things about themselves or trying to figure out, I don't know, more details about why they feel a certain way, and they may identify a certain way, things that they maybe not even tapped into before, because Mars is all about identity. So with Mars and Gemini, maybe there will be people talking about this more, right? Maybe it'll be more, not so much, I don't know. I feel almost like a birth of identity in a way, because I all of a sudden have the words to describe who I am and how I identify, my health, my body, but literally my appearance and just who I am as a human being. Like if I were to write down what are the keywords for me as I am, lots of new information coming through that may not have been new, like as in it's cutting edge new, but as in new for me. Like I just never researched it. I never learned about it. But now that I've learned about it, I might even actually have a greater understanding. This is real possible with a midpoint in Jupiter, greater understanding, and Uranus. Different, unique, new, all about individuality. Uranus, the Uranus midpoint, an expansiveness of my individuality. Like, who am I really? right? Are there some things about myself I haven't shared with others, or I was afraid to share with others? Not because, I mean, for some, there might be shame or embarrassment, but for some, I just wasn't sure how that was going to work. I wasn't sure if I was going to be, there was just a lot of unknowns, right? There's a lot of questions when you talk about Gemini energy. But the curiosity of Gemini is kind of like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to find out some things. So individuality is big with Uranus energy. I even heard an astrologer describe Uranus as that's when we raise our freak flag, which is like I can stand out and be so original, so authentic, so very different. Like when God made me, he threw away the mold type of thing. Like there's not another person like me type of thing. That's Uranian energy. Okay. It is a whole lot of other things, science, medicine, space, right? We think of aliens, but we also think of like NASA, right? We think of technology when we think of Uranus. We think of alternative forms of power and energy, specifically because we now have Pluto in Aquarius. So before I go any further, I open up the book in my brain and I can't shut it off. Money and values is big because Uranus is in Taurus, mixed in with the Earth. How are we going to power the planet, right? So we've got a lot of that there, but this midpoint specifically, that 5 degrees, even we can even discover that thing, right? Taking a risk, laughter, fun, joy, romance, dating, relating, mating, like that's all that energy around that degree. It's got that vibration. Whatever you find fun, or what did you do when you were young to have a good time? Like when you think back. And we also can think of that 5 degrees as some people who think they're the boss of everybody and like the rules don't apply to them, and being a bit rebellious and being a bit of an authoritarian, right? The rules for thee, not for me type of thing. So we've got this Jupiter going big with Uranian energy. And so now, because this is part of the conjunction with Mars, and it's not just Mars, there are going to be other aspects to this. If we pull this back, we can see the 4 and 6 and 6. That red line is there because Mars, this is all together with Mars, and Mars at that degree is aspecting all these things. It's squaring the mutable Virgo signs between, we're going to say 5, 6, 7, 8 degrees, but actually for the whole week, Mars gets to about 11 degrees. So we'll say between 5 and 11 degrees of Virgo and 5 and 11 degrees of Pisces. Pisces and Virgo square Gemini energy. You see that? See that red T-square I have drawn in there with the red line going across of the opposition? So we have Pan there. I'm sorry, we have Hermes there at 10, slow mover. It just goes to 8. So it's definitely squaring Aldebaran. That's the other thing. We got Aldebaran at 10. We got a lot of strong stuff for this whole week that's going to be squaring. Even if Mars wasn't here, Aldebaran's part of the picture in Gemini, but you see Mars is getting closer to Aldebaran. It's approaching Aldebaran. So before I go further, let me tell you a little bit more about what the software shares about this midpoint of Jupiter and Uranus, okay? Jupiter and Uranus at 5 degrees. So if you've got something at 5, whether it's in Virgo or Pisces, I can think of a couple of people off the top of my head. This midpoint, you might have noticed some things like, again, boss energy, parents, authority figures in your life energy. It unites your sense of expansion and optimism. You hear the keywords for Jupiter, right? It ignites your sense of expansion and unites, because it's combining Jupiter and Uranus together. I said ignite. With your capacity for innovation and sudden changes, different, new, right? Uranus, shocks and surprises. Technology for some of us, like, oh my God, I never knew how to do this. Suddenly it just clicked. When this midpoint is activated, oh yeah, Uranus can also be freedom along with Jupiter. Oh yeah, big point of freedom. Big point of freedom. Both of those planets can mean freedom. Let's see what they say. When this point is activated, it triggers breakthroughs and new opportunities, encouraging a dynamic approach to life's possibilities. This is particularly beneficial in situations that demand quick adaptation or when embracing new technologies and ideas. For example, if you are involved in scientific research or astrology, by the way, starting a technology-based business, or simply looking into injecting new life into your daily routines, this midpoint fosters an environment of excitement and growth, allowing you to capitalize on sudden shifts and innovations and ideas effectively. So this can be beneficial, but quite disruptive. Let's remember, right? Because it's Jupiter and Uranus. So it can feel disruptive to the Virgo and Pisces energy at, well, we're going to say because Mars is there, and then Mars gets conjunct Aldebaran, and this is all working as like a cluster because of white moon Lilith, who's a lot slower than Mars. And so definitely at the beginning of this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Mars gets closer to Aldebaran, but we have Estrella at 6 in Virgo, doesn't move real fast, right? So this is still getting squared by the Jupiter-Uranus midpoint. Virgo energy, my day-to-day routines, even my job, projects and tasks, something new there possibly. And so many of us get fixed. We're like, hey, don't touch my stuff. Don't move something. Somebody could just move something at the job and it pisses you off, right? But this is domestic energy in the home. This is the service industry, right? We think of nurses. We think of home health agents. We also think of like the silent workers, right? So the people I call some of the most important people within a society. The silent workers, laundry, cleaning, food, harvesting, gardening. Like this is all the really important necessities of life. The details that we sometimes find annoying, we don't want to be bothered with. Cleaning, hygiene, cleanliness. This is also pets, by the way. All right. So that 6 degrees square, we feel it because we also have Hermes that's moving backwards. Hermes is retrograding. It's Pisces energy. It goes back to 8. So we definitely have a strong T-square with Mars in those Pisces and Virgo degrees right at the beginning of this week. And it stays, hopefully once Mars passes by like Wednesday, Mars gets up in the numbers Wednesday, Thursday. So Mars being beyond the 8-degree mark might not feel as difficult. So I would think that for some of you with those low degrees objects, this can be a challenging week with stress and tension. Pisces can be illusions, fantasy, sci-fi. We might have ideals and perfections, but understanding as well. Unity and oneness may be challenged this week. Unity and oneness. This can be politics and politicians, actors and actresses, and sound. I know we're going through that here with the cicadas, and we got a double brood. So we got extra time with extra noise. And yeah, that would make sense. Sound. So whatever that thing is for you that just is the fingernails on the chalkboard. Yeah, you might see a little bit of that in your world for the first few days of the week. Okay. And then of course, Gemini, social media, conversations, coworkers, that whole thing. Yeah, annoying. But remember, shocks and surprises, news. That's Gemini, news and information. So that takes me to Mercury, news and information. Mercury last week was conjunct Regulus. Now Mercury's moving on. She's at 2. She's going really slow as a snail here because she's about to go retrograde. She starts retrograding just 2 degrees later at 4 degrees. This doesn't happen literally until we get to like Sunday and Monday. So you're already into August. You're like August 4th, August 5th by that time. But I'm getting kind of ahead of myself because we got to talk about Venus. Venus and Black Moon Lilith move into new signs. All right. Venus at the end of July, the end of July, she'll be at 28 and 29 degrees. 29 is a critical degree and it's in Leo. So Venus will be conjunct Regulus, like August 1st, August 2nd, and then August 3rd, she moves. She's literally in Virgo on that date, right? What do I have there? August 3rd, August 4th, Venus literally 0 degrees Regulus, and that 0 degrees Virgo, which is where Regulus is sitting. You see that there, Regulus, R-E-G, Regulus. Okay. So Venus starts the week at 22. As she travels throughout this week, she will trine, because she's in red, which is fire, she will trine the galactic center at 27 degrees. Now, again, that 27 degrees, that's going to set up by like Wednesday, which to me overlaps. So it's interesting that Mars, here is Mars at 6, but then Venus gets near, even at 28 degrees. I think it's all going to happen at the same time. You got Mercury going really slow. So there's maybe a jobs report, right? Because it's in Virgo, jobs report, right? The details, the data. Where's the chart? Where's the report? I got to read it, right? That's some of that Virgo stuff. And jobs, tasks, projects. We think of health and health routines and pets. I've mentioned all that before, and healthcare and the silent workforce. So it's part of the jobs report, but domestic energy. So if you work at home, or if you have like housemates or children, your spouse, whatever it is, remember Mars can agitate and irritate. So there's just something, maybe somebody moves something, maybe somebody isn't, there's not proper etiquette, the coughing and the sneezing, and don't cover your mouth, don't blow people, we know how, you get into some of the very unpleasant, unsightly things, whether it's with smells and sound. And it's like, okay, can we, that's enough, go in another room and do that stuff, please? Like Mars squaring all this. There can be some of that because of the Pisces sensitivity at the other end as well. Okay. Now, on a large scale, what does it mean? Something bigger, likely, because Regulus is involved. You see? So it's not going to be small. And because Virgo gets to that 27 degrees midweek, she is trining galactic center, Jupiter. Think Jupiter when I say galactic center. Rulings, judgments, and judges. Okay. News, galactic center, we're hearing about it. Information, something that we're talking about. Can be the markets, can be like the housing market, the stock market. There can be stuff like that. This is a trine energy. This is trine because it's Mercury at 27. So it will trine midweek. Okay. Which means it's usually, because it's Jupiter, it might be something that might sound like a little like, oh my God, is that true? Just remember, folks, Jupiter can be the film, can be moving pictures. All right. And I'm saying that because there's a lot of different videos. There's a lot of fake news out there, but that's kind of part of this to see how it's occurring and foreign entities, Jupiter across the pond, foreign entities having a hand in some of this. That's the reality. And that's the reality that I think some of us in the States are embarrassed about because we've been duped and we don't, we're pointing the finger at our neighbor. We're pointing the fingers at our coworkers. And it's like, we're pointing the finger at the news sources. And the reality is we're the dum-dums, the consumers of the information who fell for it and who didn't verify it, who didn't double check things out because it's tricky. I get it. But those foreign entities who have something to gain, that's the secret there, right? It's old school detective mystery 101. Who has something to gain by showing you that, right? Yeah. And so that's a whole lot of what's going on. And unfortunately, you United States citizens co-signing for these foreign entities without realizing it, like furthering their talking points without realizing it. So without going any further into that, because it's frustrating enough as it is all by itself, we've got Black Moon Lilith next. Here on this chart, you see she's at 11. Interesting, because that's at the beginning of the week, right? Those are the degrees I mentioned. We've got Estrella at 6, but I said that the square from Mars goes from 5 to 11, and Black Moon Lilith is there. She is moving pretty quick right now. So the good news is that she is going to not be part. She's not going to be part of a square with Mars, okay? Because sometimes, well, that would be like, I think, a real battle. Black Moon at one end and Mars at the other. Like put up your Dukes type of battle. She moves on, okay? And she is going to be right here in Libra, which means that she's going to be conjunct the South Node. Now, let me take a minute here to point out some of the aspects of Mars that I kind of just talked about in a overview way. This Mars right here at 6, which is moving along, but at the beginning of this week, you see a blue line. I mean, you see a lot of red lines, right? But this blue line is gone as soon as Mars hits 9 degrees. Right now it's 6, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Mars is trining the south node. So a big release of some sort in partnerships. There's action taken. It easily happens. It easily happens. It's between Gemini and Libra energy. There's a communication, there's news, there's information, there's some sort of a talk and a conversation. And Mars takes this action, so it easily occurs, right? It's the trine energy. Has to do with the past, somebody we were already a partner with. This can be a professional partnership. Do you have something at 8 degrees? Between 6, 7, and 8 degrees. All right. And you could even go 8, 9, and 10 realistically because of the 2-degree orb with the moon's nodes. They're really powerful. All right. So there's an activation of a release and a let go. And for some of us, this can just be, we do contract work, right? And so my contract is up and I knew that because it's the moon's node. So it's not something frivolous. You follow? It's not something frivolous. And I will say this usually will be something major because it's deeply transformational. There's a lot of history involved at the exact 8-degree mark. Now, you may have something at 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. You may not have something at the 8. Okay. Each of those degrees, I want you to just think of the different signs, the different houses in astrology to get more information for yourself. Because I said deeply transformational, number 8, 8th house, think Scorpio energy, right? A change on a deep level, maybe something even from another lifetime or a soul history, soul memory, because the south node is that as well. You see? So at the beginning of this week, the first 3 days, there's that thing happening, a big release. And by the end of the week, going back to Black Moon Lilith, she is going to be conjunct that south node. Mars will have already moved. Mars will now already at the end of the week be 11 degrees though. All right. So Mars has already moved on. It's at 11, but it will square that 10-degree mark. You see? So Mars is pretty much activated for these changes and these releases, or for you in your chart, if you have other things balancing it where it's not difficult, or it's a welcomed release, it's a welcome ending. It's like, yes, I had found a new job weeks ago, and this is that release. This is my last day. Like it could be something as sweet as that, but this is relationship energy too. Personal relationship. This is partnerships, marriage. It can be professional, but it can also be marriage relationships. Okay. Not like that would just be all of a sudden. With the nodes connected, there's that deep history there. This angling Mars energy has an opposition at that 6 degrees that I didn't point out, but I just wanted you to see it because it's just literally for like 2 days, 3 days, right? That's Persephone, someone who's alone, someone who feels alone, someone who's like a foreigner in a foreign land, foreign language, foreign country, someone who's somewhere different, something that they're not comfortable with. And they're having to kind of make peace with being outside of their comfort zone, being around different people, being away from what's familiar. That's the story of Persephone. Being away from what's familiar, learning to overcome the anxiety from the separation anxiety, and learning to enjoy the freedom of this new place and be optimistic and courageous and think adventure, new and exciting. Like that's what we learn with our Persephone energy. That takes us to the sun. I've got the sun drawn in here, and the sun is going to move just about 7 degrees. So it gets to like 14 degrees. It's in fiery Leo, and being in Leo energy means as the sun travels through Leo, it trines Aries and it trines Sagittarius. So the trine for the sun this week in Sagittarius and Aries is between 7 and 15 degrees. 7 and 15 degrees, we got trine energy. Now, what do we know exists in Aries? We got the North Node in Aries. The sun is trining the North Node. You see how that works? The North Node is your future. It's where we are headed. It's the soul's goal. It's freedom and independence because it's Aries. It can be the future of the war or the different wars that are going on. We think military when we think Aries, taking action. We also think body autonomy, big topic. As much as I talk about United States and our issues here, that I do realize, and I've mentioned it before, that there are women's issues, women's rights all over the world where women are treated much worse than the women in the United States are being treated. And I just wanted to take a moment to further acknowledge that again, because I mean, a real quick example, a lot of women were dying because they weren't willing to surrender to these new set of rules that were being imposed upon them. And now, which I didn't realize, now the women have lost their right to be educated. But women are denied education, period. I'm not talking about college education. I'm talking about education, learning to read and write. So, holy crap, we don't want to go there, right? No. So when we think of freedoms because of our identity, whether I'm male or female, or whether I am neither, I could be something else altogether. I could identify in a whole different way, right? And being denied a basic civil liberty. Insane. Let's not go there, folks. Let's wisen up real fast. Okay. The sun is trining this just at the beginning of this week. Remember, the sun moves 1 degree a day. So when Mars is exactly trining the south node, the sun is exactly trining the north node, which means Mars is also creating a sextile. I have it in green, and I'm just going to, Mars is a sextile. Mars is a sextile to the north node, and the sun is involved, an authority figure, someone who is in charge, right? 7 degrees is partnership energy, but then even something is at 8 degrees, what I want to be known for, Varuna, what I want to be known for, my legacy. This can be energy where I want to be king. I am the king. I rule over you, right? And so especially for US citizens, we have to figure out real fast who's trying to rule over us as opposed to representing us. I get it. It's not perfect, but we got to make decisions because we have an election coming. So we got to get smart. If we're not smart, if we haven't been educated with all of this, we're going to have to do that. This is big. Not on this day, but we're leading up to a very, very, very transformational time in our country's history. Varuna is here. You see, so this is powerful. Again, Leo energy, children, fun, joy, creativity, romance, mating, dating, creating, right? This energy, partnership energy, marriage, professional partnership. Yeah. It reinforces that release energy. Think of diplomatic partnerships when you think of the South Node at 8 degrees. And it can be about shared resources, natural resources. We think, well, yeah, you can in your mind figure out what that is when you think of natural resources and resources of the planet. The new moon on the 4th is in Leo. And guess where it's at? 12 degrees. 12 degrees in Leo. Right. So this Leo energy is a big deal. Now, before I go further, I want to emphasize something to the Taurus energy and the Scorpio energy. I am going to come in here with my red, and we're just going to highlight this so that you understand as the sun moves, as the sun travels, right, between 7 and 15 degrees, that 7 and 15 degree energy will square the 7 and 15 degrees of Scorpio and the 7 and 15 degrees of Taurus, between 7 and 16 degrees of Scorpio and Taurus. Opposition, 7 to 16 degrees of Aquarius. And we have Chericlo there. Somebody who is observing others who are suffering, who is watching groups of people suffering. Right. I think we all can see some images in our head and we know where this is going on. We've got people abusing their power. This is authoritarians, folks. Authoritarians rising up worldwide. Know what that is. Know the difference. Don't go based upon what somebody on YouTube told you that this is what the word authoritarian means. And this is what, like, there's a whole lot of terms being thrown around and they're telling you that these particular words mean this when they don't. So we gotta get educated if we're not. And I know I hate politics. Yeah, we really do. If we can't do it for ourselves, well, then please do it for the future generations and the children. New moon, new beginning in Leo. There will be the video. Go watch it. I'll put it up here or there. That's on the 4th. Jupiter power. It's Jupiter and Neptune. They both are co-rulers of Pisces. Politics, right? We think institutions of society, right? Mm-hmm. We think hospitals, we think drugs, we think Hollywood and sound, moving pictures. We think illusions, delusions, and confusions and deceptive. Intentional deceptions can happen with Pisces energy. Okay, because I'm on the stage, I've got makeup on, I've got a costume on, and I'm giving you a performance. Well, what happens when someone's giving you when they're giving you a performance, but you don't know you're being given a performance? What you think is in front of you is somebody talking to you and trying to give you like just the facts. But in reality, behind the closed doors, they know they're putting on a show for you. That's some of the strong Piscean stuff. And because this is a very slow midpoint, Jupiter and Neptune, slower than Jupiter and Saturn, slower than Jupiter and Uranus, right? Because Neptune moves slower. It's going to be a thing for those who have the squares to this. Okay, so the squares to this is Leo energy. We're going to say between 4 and 8 degrees between Leo energy and that Varuna's right there, right? Yeah, Varuna and the sun, and Aquarius between 4 and 8 degrees, because these are the fixed signs, and that's the squares that get thrown. That's the aspects. Those are, we're not sitting at the table, or if we are, it's kind of heated, right? Or I might be just driving by in the car and flipping you the bird type of thing, right? With my arm out the window and I'm giving you the middle finger. The opposition, of course, would be Scorpio between 4 to 6 degrees. Now, let me read about the Jupiter and Neptune real quick. The keywords are all so similar when we think of Jupiter and Neptune energy. Right now, that's a midpoint in Taurus. So we know money and values on the earth, Taurus energy, right? You got to dissect each little detail. Then that degree, we think the 6th house, don't we? Virgo energy, health. There might be something with food. There might be something with pets, food for sure, right? Hygiene, making money. How do I make money? What's my income, right? My bank account, the health of the bank account, the health and jobs reports, possibly interest rates connected to the jobs reports, because they look at the jobs reports to figure out, are we going to have a decrease in interest rates? Are they staying the same? An authority figure, somebody within an institution. This is Jupiter and Neptune. Okay. They both play a role in this, similar keywords, and the software's definition. It merges our sense of expansion and optimism with your spiritual and imaginative qualities. Spiritual and imaginative. So in addition to the spiritual and imaginative, those aren't wrong. But we sometimes forget when we are illusions and delusions to create with that energy. It's great energy to make up stories or to paint a picture or to write a story, screenplay, whatever, music and sound. It's not to be presented as fact. Never when you're presenting Jupiter and Pisces energy. It's more about ideals and hopes and dreams. Neptune, dreams, right? Activation of this midpoint enhances your ability to dream big and connect with your higher ideals, making it invaluable in spiritual and artistic or humanitarian endeavors. This can be especially effective when you are involved in a creative project that requires inspiration, or when engaging in activities that aim to benefit others on a large scale. You see how key that is? To benefit others on a large scale, all right? For example, if you're working on a piece of inspiring artwork, it could be poetry. It could be, literally writing a piece of music, playing an instrument, participating in a charitable activity, or exploring spiritual growth. We think of kumbaya and prayer and ceremonies and meditation. This midpoint fosters a profound connection to your vision for the higher ideals. It's enriching your pursuits with depth and meaning. You follow? So beliefs is really a big part of this. Remember, it's not real good with facts. So when we talk about our values, These are our higher ideals. So when we can't reach those, right? Remember, we shoot for the stars, even if we miss, we're among, or you shoot for the moon, even if we miss, we're among the stars. This is that thing where in Taurus, and we got these higher ideals. Remember, this is what I want. This is what I value. And when it goes extreme, I force my ideals onto somebody else. We can't do that. We have to take a well balanced approach with Taurus energy because it's very fixed and stubborn. So we connect it to what's best for the group or to channel it into some spiritual pursuit, some higher ideal, something that you are praying and hoping for the future. Okay. So that connection with finances and with values and with the planet and with Earth. We make goals and plans and say, oh, we want to have this set for whatever date and time. We want to be free of all, the bad things for the planet by such and such date. It's shooting for the moon, right? It's shooting for the stars. And then we got to take the little steps to get there. But they don't expect us to be able to hit this carbon-free thing tomorrow, right? It's not possible, right? The tangible and the reality is the Jupiter working with Saturn, which is what we have to take it step by step to get there. You see, does that help you to understand these things? And remember, Jupiter's belief, and it's belief with both of these. But there's steps involved with all of it.